Yeah, that's right. The big old 3-0, the dirty 30. I hit it last week, and I feel like my 20s didn't go as planned. And so maybe this is how not to waste your 20s. But we got work to do. Welcome back to American Beef Ranch. My name is Jesse. This morning I am doing chores, and then it's Sunday. And then I'm cooking breakfast for family and company. And then we have to do some teaching, some pew-pew things. And this is Mojo, and he doesn't stop until you feed him. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is about my 20s and how I feel like I'm not at all close to where I wanted to be or where I should be when I hit 30. And now it's not to say that I didn't have a good 20s, because I definitely did. I mean, by all accounts, I had a really good 20s. I mean, went to university, graduated, had a college rodeo career, that was really successful, had a professional rodeo career that was pretty good. Had some adversity too, got kicked in the head and by a horse, had some issues, still have issues with that. Went to different cities, went to different states, started working on some other things, and then, the big C word happened and came home and got back to my roots at about halfway through the 20s, right there, 2020. Came back, worked for a farm, did some custom farming, and then ended up buying this place, buying the farm that I've always wanted. And, that's awesome. It's a great thing, but, I struggled in a few things, and I feel like now, because I struggled with those things in my 20s, I'm going to spend my 30s making up for it. And there's a few things I think that are absolutely key to setting yourself up in your 20s so that you can make not necessarily your 30s easy or 40s easy or 50s easy. You're always going to face adversity, but to set it up so that life, you're already down your path, you're ahead. Some people use their 20s to, I don't know, find themselves. And I guess you could say I'm kind of in that same boat. I really didn't know what we were doing a whole lot in my life at that point. Farming, doing this, whatever. But I think we see it a lot that, the people that go to university, go do things like that, and then basically, they're consistent in what they do, is the ones who are quite a bit farther ahead in life at 30. I mean, usually, they can still make mistakes and not be quite where they should be, but not that one is bad or one is good. It's just that I think consistency is one of the biggest things that we can do to really set ourselves up for success in our 20s. And instead of starting one thing and doing another thing and going here, there, and everywhere, it's really hard to start at 30 and start over again, instead of, maybe following exactly what you want to do in the beginning, as long as it's reasonable, right? So the other thing, that if the thing is reasonable that you're doing, basically, and, it makes sense and it's what you want to do, the other biggest thing that I think I've learned is our generation struggles with is delaying pleasure. And I don't mean, some things. I mean, instant gratification. We struggle with it. We want instant gratification immediately, all the time, instead of, waiting for the good thing. Because usually the best things in life you have to wait for. And instead of, because we live in such a society of abundance, everything's easy, access is fast, social media shows all these people with all these things, and we're worried about our status. And when we compare ourselves, we only put ourselves down and force ourselves to have the big house, the nicest car. And not that any of that stuff is inherently bad. It's just that we often put ourselves in a poor position to achieve those things. And, instead of eating out 4 nights a week, maybe you eat out 1 night a week and have, a regular meal. And it's simple things like that make the difference between, usually the people that are successful or highly, highly successful at the age of 30. Not that they're not successful at the age of 30, but highly successful, versus the people that are not so much, and that's something I think I've struggled with a lot. And like I said, I've had really good 20s. I also met my amazing wife. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I have a great family. I mean, I have a lot of things that are very positive, but it just still feels like I didn't get there, or didn't quite get it where I wanted to be. Now, with consistency and delaying pleasure being said, I still think the biggest mistake, or the biggest reason that I'm not where I want to be right now at 30 is work. Not saying that I didn't work hard, or there wasn't times where I worked really consistently or didn't do those things that I needed to do. It's just that I didn't put it all together. Alex Hormozy says your 9 to 5 is not what, doesn't set you up for success. It's you wasting your 5 to 9, snoozing the alarm, watching too much TV, doing things like that. And I'm not saying, and he's not saying either, don't be a good father. Don't spend time with your family. If you have kids, you definitely should be a part of their lives. But in the early stages, in your 20s, you definitely should spend time working. And like I said, if we put this all together with consistency, delaying pleasure, and putting in the work, I knew exactly what I was going to do already. And I kind of ran away from it, kind of ignored it. And I kind of, set myself back another 10 or 15 years because I didn't go into it. I knew that I was going to be part of agriculture. In my early 20s, I had plenty of cows. I had the opportunity to invest my time and my effort into the farm more operationally, instead of just being part of the day-to-day, being the operation itself. I had the opportunity to sell beef and basically make food. And that's what it all comes down to. And I'm doing that now, and I'm going to continue to do that for the foreseeable future. There's no reason for me to stop. But I already knew that. And unfortunately, for 5 or 7 years, I went away from it. I ran from putting in the work on what I knew I was going to do, which is a reasonable career. Raising food is a reasonable career. And especially for me, we saw during the big C word in 2020 that having small regional food systems really helps make the American food system more robust. And so it makes sense for me to do this. It's not unreasonable, right? So if we put this all together, the 3 biggest lessons I think anybody in their 20s should take away from is be as consistent as possible. Delay the pleasure often as you can. Start building up your savings, building up other things in your life where you don't live to excess, and not necessarily even excess. Choose to stay home instead of going out, choosing less alcohol, choosing less parties, choosing less stuff like that. Not that I've done an entirely lot of any of those, but there's definitely times where I chose to go have leisure and pleasure instead of working hard and putting myself in a better position. And then lastly, just work. That's probably the biggest out of all of them, just work. I think we see it all the time. Like I've said, those guys in the trades that go to work and are smart with their money, by the time they're 30, they're pretty much set for life. And instead, if you see somebody go to university and get a poor degree, a degree that doesn't pay very well, they're strapped or saddled with debt, and they're going to work until they're 60 basically to pay off that debt and then have retirement. And that's just a mess. And from me to you guys, put in the work, be consistent, and just try your best. And that's what I should have done. But I'm lucky that all this ties together. To have good beef, I got to have good cows. To have good cows, I need to have good pasture. To have good pasture, I need to understand the soil and have better soil health. And to have better soil health, I have to understand that soil and know what to add to it or do and not do to make it in that manner. So from the farm to the fertilizer company to the beef to the chickens, it all is working together and putting us toward our goal, right? Having a robust regional food system with really good food that pretty much anybody can get their hands on and afford. Guys, thanks for watching. My name's Jesse. This is American Beef Ranch. We'll see you next time. God bless.